Okay, let's start by clearing up something. I originally started the vlog at week 0, and I'm not sure why I did that. So this is labeled as week 51, or really it's week 52. It is the last week of the year, which is why I'm doing this year in review right now. But yeah, just the last video that I made, I think I said, oh, there's like 2 more weeks to go or whatever. It was just, I started doing videos like maybe the week of Christmas or right after Christmas or something, and I don't know when I posted the first one or when I edited. Like, I just don't remember how it happened. It was a year ago. But yeah, this is just labeled weird. Week 51 is technically is week 52, but it's because I started at week 0. Why would I do that? I really don't remember. But this is the last vlog of this is the 52nd week, so this is a full year of vlogging. In the future, I'm gonna start with week 1, and I think it's just gonna be called like week 1, year 2, or year 2, week 1, or something like that for next week. But this is the last week going on here, so I will have a vlog for week 51, and this is the conversation for week 51. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, yeah, a year in review. I don't want to make this specifically about like vlogging stuff, because I might have a conversation about that, a behind the curtain conversation where I talk about like what's happened with the vlog and whatever. This is more of just like, hey, what's happened in my year and how do I feel about what's happened in my year. And it still has to do with this media and this format of vlogging, podcast, video, all that stuff. I don't know where to start. I mean, I guess, starting the vlog and all that thing, I mean, like I said, I don't want to go into too many details about that right now in this conversation, but that started a year ago. What changes have happened in the past year? I guess that's where I really have to start, and then kind of how I reflect on those things that happened and how I feel about them and whatever else, and maybe what I'm looking forward to doing this next year. The year that I've been doing this, I started off the year single. Would have been for, I don't even think a full 6 months at that point, or maybe about 6 months. I really don't recall exactly, but approximately 6 months from a relationship I was in for over 3 years. So that was the context that I was in at that point when it came to romantic relationships. And I was definitely going through a rough time with how I would deal with relationships, very short-term relationships, or I didn't want to get into a long-term relationship, and part of that was based off of also the context of I was finishing off my part-time contract. So I had, for a year and a half, for a full year I had a full-time contract, and then it moved into a part-time contract for last year, just the first semester, that ended at the end of January. So, that kind of was happening at the very start of the year last year as well, with no guarantees as to what's going to happen on the sub list, and it was incredibly rough, I'll tell you that much. Being on the sub list last year, the last half of the year was super, super rough. That was going on. So, yeah, I don't know. I was an anxious mess. I was dealing with things poorly. I had negative coping mechanisms that I reached into and used, and I've had a lot of reflection on that, not just recently, but I don't know, I guess, I don't know how long I've been reflecting on it. I was reflecting on it before I was even doing it, and while I was doing it, and after I was doing it. So just the way that I treated myself and others in romantic relationships, like I said, whether they be short-term or something in between, but I definitely was very purposely not seeking any long-term relationships because for a lot of reasons. One, I was not in a place where I felt ready to commit to anybody, but also, with career stuff, I was like, well, I'm going to be looking for jobs other places. I, wanted to apply to BC to get that teaching certificate. I applied to, to Edmonton. This is later on in the year when I did this, but they were things that I wanted to do. I wanted to finish my year here, and then I was assuming that if I didn't get a job here, I would be moving. I assumed there were jobs, and I assumed incorrectly. The other thing that happened this year was the change in provincial government. That was rough for my career options in this province. In Saskatchewan as well, the career options just became even less than they were, and they were already bad, which is why I moved to Alberta in the first place. So, that was kind of the beginning of the year for me. Was just anxious about work, not necessarily treating myself the best. Biking was a really positive thing though that happened. Well, that was before last year, but I definitely got more and more into that when the season kind of started up because I kind of knew a little bit more about what I was doing, where I was going. I started, vlogging the bike, like the biking. I called it raw rides, and there's just like footage of trails and stuff. And part of it is just to show the beauty of the trails. Part of it is to like let people know that live in Lethbridge, hey, we have these mountain bike trails. You should hit them up. And I just enjoy like sometimes watching them and looking at that. If I for some reason can't get on my bike, sometimes I watch those or I show people or whatever. Anyway, so that was a cool thing that I kept doing last year. I biked more last winter than I have this winter already, and part of that is time, part of that is just weather being relentlessly windy or muddy. So, like, usually hand in hand. Things start melting because it gets windy and the Chinooks, and then everything gets crazy muddy, and then, gets windy with a storm or something. It's just been, and part of it is time, too. Like, I've been working a lot more, which has been fantastic. My weekends are fuller than they used to be because of this other crazy thing that happened in my life this past year, which is having a partner with kids. Which I don't want to get into yet in great detail because that's like to me like one of the biggest changes that's happened this year, but that's definitely a thing. So yeah, like I said, I think I've been really focused on. I mean, ever since I moved to Lethbridge, which was 3 years ago now, and I made a video kind of talking about that, I felt like I've had a lot of personal growth, and it's not just because this place in my life, no matter where I was, I would have these opportunities for personal growth. But I mean, it was just switching provinces, working in my field that I wanted to, things shifting from underneath me, like with contracts and then subbing and then uncertainties, relationships being in turmoil and stuff like that. It's given me a lot of opportunity to figure out how I need to cope with those things, and I spent a lot of time doing that, not last year, but the year before. Last year, I feel like this past year I have, in some cases, out of the past 3 years I've been here, this past year has been the least amount of positive personal growth that I think I have felt in the context of the whole 3 years. I feel like I have learned a lot, but not as much as those other 2 years. I feel like I'm at a little bit of a stalemate or just like not pushing myself enough, slacking off, being a little lazy. Also, there's so much things that have changed that I haven't put in the time and work and energy to figure out how to work within those new contexts, and that's totally on me. Like, I control my time. I control, what I want to do. So that's definitely a me thing that I need to figure out. But, yeah, I really think that I have slowed down with my journey of personal growth. There's definitely things I started doing. Like, I guess last year I started writing in this book. It took me like a year to finish one of my writing books that I had, because I got that just a little over a year ago. And I don't remember, I started writing in it just over a year ago. And there's another writing book that I have here at the studio that I don't know, it'll take me longer to go through. But anyway, yeah, I have been writing more. That's another thing that I this journey of writing, because I feel like the way that I was writing for so long, I don't know. I don't remember how much I've talked about this, but the writing was the first type of art that I feel like I ever engaged in, just prolifically writing poetry in high school, and then that faded a little bit. Then I got into bands and I was writing songs, and that was kind of it. And then when I wasn't in bands, or even when I was, I just like couldn't write poetry the same way. I couldn't write stuff like that. I don't know why, it just wasn't working for me. And I eventually just would have like one-liners that would come up, and then I decided to like put them on paper and then like take a picture of them somewhere, and that became my new way of writing and expressing words, or expressing my feelings and thoughts through words, or just in a line or two, and then taking a photograph of it. That's continued now. It doesn't happen that much. But then I just started doing like this free form kind of journaling type writing too. And that's a very new thing for me. And that's been great, has been doing that. And I would like to do that more. I guess that's another thing. Yeah, like I want to talk about this past year, and then also what I want to be doing with my next year. I'm trying to think of other things that I can talk about right now. Like I said, there's a lot of turmoil. There's still a lot of changes going on. There's still a lot of adjustments that I'm making and trying to make, and at the same time, I'm not focused on them enough. Like, part of me is just trying to skate by day, and I don't like that. Like, it's sometimes just what I need to do to cope with things in the long term. I just need to, like, day by day, I just need to skate by and do what I can to just to stay sane for the day, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow and whatever. And there's been negative effects of that. One is not getting enough sleep, not getting enough art done, not getting enough creative stuff done, or enough rest, like not just sleep rest, but I mean like individual, personal downtime to just rest from the day or the week. And yeah, I need to be better with managing my time. Also, like I've totally gained weight in this past year too. I can't blame it on all just not biking. Like, my diet has been trash. And so if the amount of biking that I did, especially in the month of July, it was June or July, I biked every single day not every single day. I biked, 30 out of 31 days, I think, in July. And so that was good. I didn't really notice any weight loss, but if I was eating stupidly, then I just would have maintained, like, I didn't really lose any weight or whatever. And then when I stopped biking as much, and I haven't biked for months now, like, it's ridiculous, and I need to make time for it. I absolutely need to, and I just haven't. And that sucks, and I miss it. I don't crave it as much as I did because so much time has passed. I think about it from time to time, and I'm like, oh man, I've got time, and then the weather's trash. 50, 60, 80 kilometer winds sometimes. It's nuts. Even if it's 30 kilometer winds or 20, it's not great for biking. It's not good. It's a really horrible time. 20 kilometer winds and more. So anyway, it's just, it's not worth it to me. I've played around with going out at certain windy times and 20 kilometers or more. Not worth it. It's a horrible time. Not enjoyable. So I haven't replaced that physical activity with any other physical activity. I should take time and go hiking or something. That takes, in some ways, longer, and it's not as fun. But I need to do something because I'm just not liking how my body feels and how it looks. I wasn't liking it before either. I was liking how it felt much more, like in the summer, than like my looks hadn't. I didn't feel like I lost weight, and then my looks changed. I need to focus on diet stuff. So that's something that's one of those things I need to work on this year, and I haven't sat down and created a plan to do that for a couple of reasons. Because it's a conversation I have to have with my partner as well, because I eat a lot of meals there, and it's a whole other thing when you've got 4 people that you're trying to feed, and how are you going to do that, buy groceries and whatnot. And I think the increased amount of alcohol too might be adding to my weight gain. I don't know for sure, because I've never gone through periods where I've like drank the way that I'm drinking now. It's not necessarily about amount and frequency. It's just so sporadic, but it is like, I don't know, it's definitely more frequent than before, but not in like one shot. Like, there were times where, 12 years ago when I was really drinking, that was like, I was drinking to get drunk. So I drank a lot in one shot, and then I didn't drink for maybe a week or maybe 3 or 4 days, and then I did it again. And now it's like I might drink on a weekly basis, but it may be from 2 drinks in a week to maybe 4 or 5 drinks in a week. But it probably is on a weekly basis the past couple months. And also depends if I go out, with my girlfriend and we have a drink while we have a meal. So that might be, that caloric intake and stuff, especially with the stuff that I drink, like, the old Blarneys there and Baileys and like Irish cream type alcohol. I haven't looked at the nutritional information. I look at the alcohol content and the price, and that's kind of as far as I go into that. So that's kind of telling, but that might be a thing too. And I would like to focus on, this video is helping me create a list too of things that I should write down and start making a plan on how to interact with those things, with my diet, with my physical exercise, with like those are things that I think a lot of people focus on in the new year. Like, again, this is just a year in review since I started vlogging and documenting conversations and my life in this format. So it's a nice coincidence in a way that it lines up kind of with New Year's. I mean, it is 2020 now. This is January 1st, and kind of just a coincidence again that I had the time today to do this today, and here it is, and I don't know when I'll be putting it out. I doubt it'll be today. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that I think a lot of people do, and I've never been one to make like New Year's resolutions. This year I'm going to do this. New year, new me. Like, no, that's not really what I do. I kind of really dislike that for the most part. So just the way that people talk about it and the cliches and things like that. But I mean, it is, again, it is a time. I mean, it makes sense that it is a good time to reflect on your past year when you were starting a new calendar year and the changes you'd like to make in that year. It completely makes sense. But then when people are like a month away from January and they have things they want to change and they say like, you know what, in the new year I'm going to do this thing. It's like, well, why don't you do that thing now? Like, if you have reflected and you realize that change needs to happen, why wait a month? Like, just do the thing now. I don't know. Those are my thoughts on that. But yeah, those are definitely some things. I do want to focus on some of those things that are cliche because like I struggle with those things a lot. My diet needs to change. Even like that's a thing. The amount of exercise that I was doing was keeping me in a spot where I didn't feel I was gaining any weight. I felt gain. That's not true. I gained weight in muscle, definitely, in my thigh and leg and calves, like all that, like definitely happened with biking. I noticed the weight gain in muscle, the muscle gain. I didn't notice anything in my stomach area or whatever. But since I have stopped biking and had an even crappier diet than I probably did in the summer, I have definitely noticed that my pants aren't fitting the way they used to, and they're more uncomfortable and tighter. And also, today I really noticed my like face fat, so that's cool. I just really need to. I do need to do both of those things. I think the diet is more important than the exercise is, but I definitely do need to focus on exercising more consistently, creating a plan, and just getting it done and just doing it. Like, that just needs to happen. I just can't have. There should be no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just need to do it. So I need to create a plan for that. Anyway, I don't like to focus on that stuff too much, and obviously not, because if I was focused on it, I would have done something about it already. Usually I am more focused on the cerebral, intellectual, creative, all the stuff that's not the physical, which is why I am the way I am, because those things take way more importance, emotional stuff and mental stuff. And those are things I notice, like, quicker. My body becomes, despite the fact that I'm uncomfortable in my body, it becomes comfortable because I'm used to it. And then when I notice like rapid weight gain or something, like I've noticed the past couple of months, I'm like, oh, now I'm uncomfortable again. So it is an area of focus for me. But anyway, every time, it's not when a relationship ends for me, but when a new relationship begins, that's when I kind of notice how much I've changed from the previous relationship. So I mentioned that there was this time, like 6 months or so before I even started vlogging, there's this gap where this major romantic relationship ended. And like I said, I was not wanting to commit to anyone in a serious way. And I just, yeah, like I said, I treated myself and others, I would be safe to say deceptively. And that's not a good thing. Like, it's obviously, or should be obvious, that's not like a good thing or something I'm proud of or whatever, but there were things that I wanted and I was very selfish, and things that I knew were a detriment to myself. And having these negative coping mechanisms, falling back into these old patterns and habits and things, just, telling myself that I'm not hurting anyone else, including myself, that this is just what it is, like I can just be an adult and navigate this weird middle ground, despite knowing that like I can get emotionally attached in certain scenarios, and like that, what am I going to do with that attachment, because this isn't going to be a forever thing. I know that I'm being very vague, but that's just how I want to be right now, but still wanting to talk about it in some degree. So yeah, that's something that I did have a focus on for sure. I'm still reflecting on that, honestly, on just the way that I treated myself and others in romantic relationships. And that is one area where I really feel I made some breakthroughs, but for some reason they just don't feel, like sometimes they feel amazing and other times they just don't feel like amazing. Maybe because like they were things I shouldn't have had to have breakthroughs on. There were things that I should have just known or just like done intuitively, naturally, just been able to be a better person. I shouldn't have had a breakthrough moment. Like there are things I was aware of, I just didn't change the habit. Like there's usually for me, I'm very aware of something that I'm doing. I just choose not to change for whatever reason, because of comfort, because of not knowing what I'm replacing that non-action with a positive coping mechanism, or if that will feel as good, or that it'll probably actually feel good, whereas the negative coping mechanism obviously is the appearance only of good and isn't. Anyway, that's an area where I feel like I've made some huge strides. I have had issues in the past with infidelity, and like I said, even when I'm not in a committed relationship, just the way that I treat myself, and that there's no indication sometimes on how I treated others. It was just how I treated myself, despite the fact that others are completely oblivious and they're happy and whatever, and I've treated them well. Just how I've treated myself has not always been the best. And I fell into some of those habits again, and I've come out of them within, the course of the past year. Well, no, there was a lot of negativity for years, but definitely it has happened in this past year that I have really reflected on it, and had a couple incidences that really pushed me into a corner where I really needed to change. Unfortunately, that's just what I do sometimes. I want to make changes, I want things to be different, and I just don't do it. And I paint myself into a corner where I have to do something drastic and make changes and either continue going negative, or I need to make positive changes that are extreme at that point, and just like, hey, that's it, that's done. I mean, like drinking was an example where I went from 0 to 100, then back to 0. And now I'm in this middle ground where I'm like, I need to figure out how I'm gonna have a relationship with alcohol that's positive, where I don't feel weird. And I can get more into that in a few minutes, but yeah, so I definitely feel like I made some commitments to myself that are very strong, that I haven't made before. I don't really feel it's about necessarily finding the right person that makes you want to do things or whatever. I really just feel like it's like me being ready to make changes, me being in whatever place I'm in and position I'm in, and from how much I hurt myself in the past, and just saying like, I'm not making these changes for someone else, I'm making these changes for me, and I'm in a position to do that in a way where I feel it'll stick. And so I feel really happy with the changes that I've made, in the way that I treat myself and others in romantic relationships, and thus this relationship that I'm in now, which has been a really great thing. And I've learned a lot within the relationship already, because it's not like things are just 100% perfect and amazing in any relationship that I've ever been in. Sometimes they appear that way, but then you find out there's huge incompatibility issues or no chemistry or what have you. And I feel like those are things that are amazingly strong in this relationship: chemistry and compatibility, and there's still things that we need to work out sometimes. And I feel like our lines of communication are just open and receptive the majority of the time, and I have been just learning how to communicate better with my partner. And yeah, I don't know, that's one of those things for me that it's been a huge shift. And if we keep that thing going, I mean, the biggest shift is the fact that it wasn't supposed to happen. Like, this relationship didn't start as like, hey, why don't we try dating and see what happens? Like, no, my girlfriend has 2 kids. That's not something I've ever wanted. So we knew in advance this wasn't supposed to go anywhere serious, and then it just kind of did. And then I had huge bouts of anxiety about it when we were getting more serious and closer, and needing to be like, well, pump the brakes. Like, is this really something that I can handle? Is it something that I want? Is it something that whatever? And I had a couple really bad bouts of anxiety where I was like, man, no, I really don't think I can do this. Like, this is crazy. Like, this isn't for me. This is not the life. Whatever. Like, this is gonna change the whole course of my life. Like, if I stay committed to this, it changes the whole course of my life. And obviously, just like any relationship without kids, you can step away anytime in any type of relationship and realize this isn't working for me and I need to do what's best for me. But like, I didn't have like an epiphany that was just like, hey, yeah, let's like, you do want kids, you do want, like, that didn't happen. It just kind of like I spent more time and became more comfortable, and I'm still not like 100. Like, it's gonna take time before I feel like 100%. But I haven't had these huge bouts of anxiety anymore. I've had no bouts of anxiety in months that have made me question whether or not I can do this. Like, there's time, like, I don't know. There's been little blips when there's been like really bad days, but it hasn't been anything like it was before. It hasn't made me question really the whole context of the relationship and if I can commit to this and whatever. So I don't know. That's where that thing's at. And saying it out loud, it sounds weird because like there was no epiphany that was like, hell yeah, like I'm here for it. Like, I know that I can do this. Like, no, it didn't happen like that. It just became, let's spend some more time and really give this a shot. And then it just kind of naturally came to the place where it is now, where I take on more and more responsibility. I spend more time. The kids spend more time with me. There's just a more family aspect than there was before. It's still a little bit uncomfortable sometimes when I think about the present and the future and whatever, but I don't know. I don't really know any way around that, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. That's been a huge shift, though. Like I said, that changes the course of my whole life in a way. It's just a whole different thing when, I've got a partner, and it's like, yeah, well, my actions affect me and my partner, and now it's like my actions affect my partner, and I, and two children, small children. Whew. There's been a lot of complications surrounding this relationship and the aspect of family stuff and these two children. Complication, I know that is usually a word that is associated with negative things. It just doesn't have to be, but they are more complex things than I worried about before. Anytime I was with a partner, it was just my partner and I, and that's it. So this does make things more complicated because there's so many other things to be thinking about at all times, and things that just might happen or may not happen, or things to consider and that I have to be responsible for and consider. It's just the thing. There's so many things to have to consider that I didn't have before. That was a huge thing this year. Massive, massive change this year. Still makes me feel weird. I still feel very in between. I feel like once my girlfriend and I get to a point where it makes sense to move in together, if/when, I don't like saying if, but I mean if/when that were to happen, I feel like that is going to be another huge like shift, and we'll see what happens then. Like, there's going to be more adjusting and reevaluating and figuring things out, and it'll take some time to get comfortable and just a lot of things there. In some ways, it will make things easier because of how my time right now is split between my own residence and my girlfriend's place, and I feel like I don't feel like I am there more than I am at my own home, and that makes things a little difficult and draining for me sometimes. I want to be there, but there are times where sometimes I'm like, hey, I would just like to be at home now, and I can't just be like, hey, I want to go home, see you later. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So, I don't know, I'm still figuring that stuff out. Like, that's been a very slow process. Talking about it makes me want to talk about it with her more, so that's good. But I mean, like, I do want to spend more time here in the studio. I just kind of made that realization yesterday. I was like thinking about the fact that I'm paying rent here, and I want to take advantage of the space more. So that is something in the new year that I would like to do and challenge myself more and do more things. I feel like some of my art has become a little stale. I want to do some new things. I have plenty of new things that I want to try and do, and like whether it's with certain media or subject matter, just a combination of things that I've had in my mind or even written down on lists or the whiteboard over there or whatever that I would like to do. So I would definitely want to spend more time here in the new year as well. I did mention that I would go back to the alcohol thing, so I'll just kind of, it's a non sequitur at this point before I wrap things up. But I really feel like I do want to figure out my relationship with alcohol a little more because it seems really sporadic right now. Here's the thing. Sometimes alcohol tastes really good, so if it's with supper, it's like, I could have some people have a virgin pina colada. Well, I don't need to have the virgin, but like, I just have a pina colada and get a little bit. Sometimes, I mean, it just depends on how fast I drink it. Really, if I'm going to get a little bit of a buzz, or if it's not going to do anything for me. Alcohol is expensive, so I feel like with my money and budget and things like that, I don't know. Like, it's not something that I need. It's something that I can enjoy, but I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would be. I'm trying, like, experimenting with new drinks is fun and stuff. I find that I think I get more out of alcohol when I go out than when, I'm just sitting down, maybe having a drink with my girlfriend at the end of the night on a weekend, just like watching a movie or having a conversation. Like, sometimes it is definitely a nice thing. It has more potential to be nice than it is nice for me. And part of that is because if I just drink very slowly and casually, I don't get, like, my tolerance to alcohol, because of who knows how many other, like, my body and whatever else is higher than I'd like it to be. So if I want to have a little buzz going or something, it takes more drinks to do that. And if I try to just drink fast so I get there, then that defeats the purpose of just having a very casual, nice, slow drink during conversation. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Because I feel like sometimes I waste money. Sometimes, like, if I'm not going to have 3 drinks, I shouldn't even have one, is what it feels like sometimes. It just depends on the purpose of why I'm drinking. And yeah, because I mean, anytime that I have, like, Baileys or Blarneys or Ryan's or whatever, anytime I have, like, a Irish cream style liqueur type beverage, in like a mocha or a hot chocolate or something, that generally always feels good. When I go outside of that and I'm just having, like, a spiked iced tea or a rum and coke or something like that, those are times where I feel like I sometimes have wasted my money, because I'm not getting enough out of the experience, and I could have drank anything, and it didn't have to be that thing, because I didn't really get much from it. So that's just some experimenting I need to do on my part to figure out what actually will make me feel good and what I feel good about spending on, and also, like I said, maybe caloric intake. Just, I need to regulate that better. I'm experimenting with it. I don't think I've gone overboard at all, but I mean, like, I am experimenting with it. That leads me to my heart stuff. I still don't know what's going on with, like, my heart issues that I was having. I haven't had much chest pain since then, but I was supposed to see a specialist, and they haven't called, and it's been like a month or something now, so I really don't know what's going on with that. As for school and career stuff, I mean, I have that BC teaching certificate now. Going to be looking for work and jobs and stuff in BC and seeing what happens. I really can't see myself moving before the end of the school year. I have applied to some jobs in the surrounding area that have come up the past couple weeks, but there's only been, I think, 2 in the province that were, like, applicable to me in this other round of jobs. So I really don't know what's going to happen. Like, there's going to be so many changes in the new year. It's going to be ridiculous, because, I mean, I'm not saying this to be negative. I just mean, like, no matter what happens, there's going to be big changes, because I feel like within this next year, assuming my girlfriend and I are still together, if we're not, that's a big change. If we are, I'm assuming there's going to be moving in at some point. And that would be a huge shift. Moving, period, depending on work and career and what I want to do with my freaking life. Like, it's not what I want to do, it's what's available to me that I want to do, both of those things. And what I want to do is sometimes changing based on availability. Because there's things I want, but there's things that I will be happy with just the same. Anyway, those are going to be 2 huge changes. Something has to happen career-wise, for sure, and relationship-wise, something's going to happen there. So changes will be big. I guess in closing, like, the vlog stuff is something that I said I didn't want to go into much detail about right now, because I want to do a behind the curtain thing about it, but there's a part of, I haven't done anything, like, I feel like there was a point where I was learning in the beginning and trying to edit stuff differently and doing, like, certain things with codecs and, like, whatever, and figuring out the program of Premiere Pro and, like, all these things, and I feel like I've been very comfortable with where I've been at for a long time. I haven't done any research. I haven't tried to make them any better in any technical sense. I'm pretty okay with that. So I don't think in that aspect things are going to change with vlogging. I think that some changes that have already happened is the content, how long the vlogs are, what I'm doing or not doing in those vlogs because of time, because of whatever else. I don't get as much time to film stuff or opportunity to film stuff, and I don't get much time to edit as I was before. So there's a part of me that also doesn't feel like it's as important, and part of it is like, hey, I've been doing it, I just want to keep doing it. I do get something out of it, but it isn't as obvious or in the forefront of my mind as it was before because it is very regular now. So it's hard for me to just drop it and be like, yeah, nah, it's not really a thing for me anymore. Like, I'll just do it special times, do it on trips, or when I do a biking video. Like, I don't know. I haven't done an art process video in months and months and months and months. I did a bunch of portraits, and I don't know. There's certain things that I just don't do anymore. The 2-cent rants I dropped so long ago, and I talked about the reasons behind that. I feel like the conversations are still very worthwhile. I enjoy doing the vlogs still, and those two things have done every single week from the start and never not done one of them. And in some cases, I've done multiple vlogs in 1 week because there was so much content. Anyway, that's kind of my year in review, with some things that have changed and things that are going to change, things that I would like to change, the things I'm reflecting on, and changes I've noticed in myself that I want to keep working on, or things that I haven't really changed yet that I know I need to work on. And yeah, I don't really know how else to sign this off. I mean, this is the last conversation of the year, and I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I don't know how hopeful and positive and optimistic and amazing I feel right now. I just kind of don't. I don't feel bad either, but being neutral about it and being kind of like not on one side or the other is kind of weird. So this makes me want to take the time to write things down, to have discussions with other parties and figure some things out. I mean, I can't believe I didn't mention this, but I mean, like, the fact that I'm here in the studio and this is my space again, that was another huge thing that happened, right? Is the loss of that artistic partnership and friendship, creative partnership that I had. That doesn't exist anymore. So that was a huge thing too, and I'm still adjusting to that. In some ways, it's an incredibly easy adjustment because I feel like things are easier. My life feels like better, less complicated, and easier, or whatever. However, there still are some things there that make things more complicated, just with the aftermath of that, which I will talk about in, I think, next week's conversation, which is remnants of past relationships, and relationships of any kind, friendships, broken family relationships or romantic relationships, and the remnants of those things. I mean, like physical things, but we'll talk about that next week. Anyway, that was another huge thing, and I'm still adjusting to that. So I just feel like the last 3 years there's been so much change in my life, and it hasn't really slowed down a lot, and I am exhausted. So that's why I feel like I'm not super optimistic and hopeful and positive, and just because I'm not those things doesn't mean I'm the opposite either. I am just, like, honestly, more than any other time I can think of in my life, just trying to get by day to day, and I really don't like that feeling. So I need to focus more on giving myself time to write. I think would really help every night. I keep saying that, and I keep not doing it, and I need to. I just need to do it. I really do, and I need to focus on that write and reading time every night. I don't know if it will happen, but I'm in control of that. Ultimately, I am in control of that. I need to make it happen. Meditating is something I want to get back into as well. So I've got a whole laundry list of things that I want to work on and do and continue pursuing, and new things that are going to happen. And it's going to be a wild year, and we'll see on another time in 2020. It is 2020, so there you go.